all. Again, my name is Jamie Miller, and I teach second grade. And I teach all content areas because it's a second grade classroom, but I am going to focus my main content as being writing, and this is something I would do with my students. I would read a text in conjunction with language workshop where they would be introduced to the text already. So when I'm reading a text for the first time, I love to activate kids' prior knowledge. So the one strategy that I'm going to work on with you today is activating prior knowledge or making connections, the same thing. So the book that I chose is called The Junkyard Wonders, and it's one of my favorite texts. I was introduced to it last year in this program and fell in love. It's by Patricia Polacco. So when I'm first starting reading this to my kids, I would go ahead and make a connection already to, right up here it says it's from the creator of Thank You, Mr. Falker. And usually I try to read this first, or if I don't, give them a little backstory. So Patricia Polacco is an author, and one of the reasons I use this for writing is because she is an author of all of her texts, and a lot of her stories are personal narratives. So we connect that to students' knowledge on what personal narratives are and that they have the opportunity of writing their own story. I would also connect this to the Junkyard Wonders, to their vocabulary that they would know. Junkyard, of course, is something that kids would wonder, I wonder what this is about because it's probably a junkyard. And what is a junkyard? And looking at that word to think about parts in there that I would know. Also, the vocabulary wonder. What does wonder really mean? Is it important to know wonder? It makes me in awe of it. I'm excited to read something that is wonderful and talk about all the different words that wonder have in, or all the different words that could have that word wonder in it. So activating their prior knowledge just from the cover is super important as well. I would also tell them the backstory of Patricia Polacco, and so I'm going to share that. And Patricia Polacco had struggled with reading when she was a child, and so I would make a connection to that with my students because I struggled with reading as a child, and a lot of times when I make that connection, a lot of them are really in awe that you can be a writer and you can struggle with reading. And so if we've read Thank You, Mr. Falker, she addresses that in that story, but this is the backstory or the setup of that. It was the end of summer. The katydids were still buzzing when I finally summoned up the courage to ask my dad if I could stay with him and Grandma for the school year instead of going back to California to be with Mom, like always. Your mother would miss you, Tricia, but I will talk to her, Dad said. I had a reason for staying, a good reason. My heart sang as I walked to school with all of the kids on my grandma's block on the first day of school. My mother and father had decided that I could stay, just for 1 year, there with my father and grandma in Michigan. In my old school in California, the kids all knew that I had just learned to read, that I used to be dumb. Everyone knew that I was always in special classes. Here, no one would know. No one would tease me, and I already had a new friend, Kay. So I can make connections here with Tricia because I was a student who came from a different part of the country, actually from a different country. I came from Canada when I was in third grade, and so when I tell children this, they seem to open up their eyes a little bit more to my story, and so this just reminds me, and I'm making a connection and activating my knowledge of what it's like to be the new kid. And I can't even imagine what it's like when you are teased because of not being able to read. But when I got to the front steps in the school, all of the neighborhood kids ran off to their classes, and when I saw Kay and waved to her, she didn't wave back. I just stood there, not knowing where to go. And when I showed two strange girls my class card, they got funny looks on their faces. You're in Miss Peterson's class, they said.
upstairs, room 206. I can connect to this paragraph because when I saw my friend Kristen on the first day of third grade, who I had met in the neighborhood, she ignored me, and it made me feel very disappointed and very upset, and made me cry on my first day of third grade, which was upsetting for me, and I can even remember how that felt then. And so making that connection to Trisha really helped me understand um, and relate to her and her feelings. So I think the important thing is getting kids to connect, and there are lots of other background knowledge pieces to what I just read that I can't even connect to. So having students connect to, maybe if they have parents that have split up and have a way of understanding that and making a connection to that might even activate some more prior knowledge to that. Or if they've ever been in a different class than others, that would help make that connection as well. So hopefully this helped you. I know I'm a little past my time, but I can't wait to hear more about yours. Thanks for listening.